In today's Cinema 4D tutorial, you're going to learn how to animate a bird wing animation, and we also go a little bit crazy with X particles. Let's do it. Hey everyone, it's Nick here again from Greyscalegorilla.com, bringing you the tools, training, and tutorials to help make you a better motion designer. Now today's video was recorded during Ask GSG, which is where you can bring your Cinema 4D questions live to us and we answer them as well as we can on our live show on Twitch. And if you'd like to come by, hang out, we'd love to have you. Please click down below. I'm also going to link it up here on our YouTube page. And also, if you've missed past episodes or if you just can't make it to the live shows, check our training page where we record every show and you can actually watch them at any time on any device. Hundreds of hours have already been posted, so I'm going to link that up down below as well. All right, with today's tutorial, we're going to show you how to make a flapping wing animation. That was the question from today. And so Chris and I jump in and show you how to rig bones and joints into a flapping wing animation. And then toward the end of the tutorial, we start to experiment with X particles. And this is where it gets really fun. I love pulling out X particles and just experimenting with what is possible. We attach particles to the wing and we actually make it fling and fly all around, make this really fun animation. So with that, let's head on in and let's join Nick and Chris on Ask GSG. Hey everybody, and welcome to another Ask GSG. It's Chris and Nick here. We're going to try to answer your questions. In the chat here, we got a question from Jake, who's been around in the chat before. I appreciate it. Jake's got a question about this project here. He's asking about the wings, and really cool spot. We've actually seen his work before. I think we've looked at some of this before. Beautiful stuff. But Jake's specifically asking about the wings. Can we find those? There they are. So, good thing for us and for Jake, they also have this video below that shows a little bit of the process. And here it looks like they, modeled wings and got this really cool joint chain set up here that you could see right there. Let's head on into Cinema and see if we can get some wings flapping around.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna make a joint chain. A couple different ways you can make a whole series of these real quick. But let's just go and do it manually because it does not take long. We're gonna go into the character menu, and I'm going to just make a joint. So boom, there's one. Joints like traveling down the Z direction, so we're going to go ahead and I don't know what increments. We'll just say 200, and we'll just do a couple duplicates here where this is going to go 200. Make another copy of it, and we'll make that. Does it go 200? I think we set that to 200 constantly. It's always going to be in the right spot. By the way, we are not visibly seeing our joints because I turned them off from different tutorials, so now we can actually see them. And we're going to want this thing to be pretty long, I think. So we're going to make a copy of it, and once again, 200. It's going to jump into, not 2,000, 200. And that jumps to the right spot. Still not quite long enough, so I'm going to make one more partial duplicate there, set that to 200. Again, and now we've got a nice long joint chain going. So we're going to start there. In fact, I don't want to mess that up, so I'm going to copy and paste this into a new file so I can always go back to that if need be. When you're doing rigging stuff, that's always pretty important. So we've got this whole long series of joints. Works really well. I'm going to hit Alt-G, which is going to put it all in a null. And now I can grab this first joint, right-click, and I'm going to say character tags IK. So we got an IK tag. This wants to know a couple bits of information. The first thing it wants to know is what is the last joint it should be looking at, and that's this one right here. So I'm going to say that's the end. And it wants to know a goal, but I don't think that's going to be too important because we are going to be using our dynamics. And then, boom, look at that. There's a dynamics tab here. And as soon as I hit enable, I don't know for sure, but I think we hit play, and boom, look at that. We got a floppy chain going. So now this is pretty cool. This joint can control each one on the way down. And so if you start messing around with things like the strength here, we can tell like how floppy it is as it starts going down the line. Holding position, like how much drag there should be. I think having a good amount of drag here is going to be pretty important. And let's pull our strength down. And look, okay, so now we've got kind of a basic little setup there. That green line's distracting me, so I'm going to go to display and tell it not to show the line. So now we got that little wiggly thing. We need more frames to see kind of a basic animation here. But I'm going to go ahead and grab signal, actually, so we can get a nice looping animation where this is rotating up and down. So we got signal. What do we want to rotate? We want to rotate on P. So let's grab our null, go to coordinates, grab P, drop it on signal, and I'm going to tell signal to be driven by a sine wave. Actually, don't get to use that one too often. And how much? I don't know, let's say 35 in the positive and negative, and here's the time offset. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but let's just let that go. And look at that. Look at this nice flowing looping motion we get, like right away.
That's
so
awesome.
the chain gives us that for free. Like it's just a dynamic chain. So that's pretty cool. That's almost exactly what I want. So I almost don't see much to tweak there. We have a lot of options as far as like the drag is having a lot of effect here. If we pull our drag down, it's going to be really snappy and wiggly. So you see it's like wiggling around the end. So, and these become actual control. If you're building a rig, these become controls of like controlling the character. Like maybe when it dives, like the wings flopping around a lot. And then when it's soaring upward, it's really stiff and flowing. So you get a lot of options there. And our, if we pull our strength down, it's going to become really floppy. You see it's just kind of dragging down there. And if we add more strength, it should be trying to really hold its shape quite a bit. So that's pretty cool. So now that we've now that we've done that, we can go to the next step, which is layering up kind of some additional, I don't know what the word would be. It's almost like a secondary animation. So what we can do is I'm going to grab, we don't need too much of it. So I'm going to grab maybe that. I'm going to copy and paste it, and I'm even going to rename it. I'm just going to go ahead and rename it number 2. Nothing super fancy. And I'm just going to arbitrarily find a good spot. I'm going to go a few joints in, super arbitrary choice here. And I'm going to zero out its position. So I zeroed out, and now I'm going to take it, and I'm going to rotate it negative 90 degrees. So now you see it's kind of, flying off the back there. So looking at it now, it's a couple too long, so I'm just going to delete off a few on the end. And cool. So now I just want to do that a couple times. I'm going to make a duplicate of this. I'm actually going to get Shift-C, PSR, which is popping up Reset PSR. Fastest way to get that because there's no direct shortcut. Hit Enter, and it's going to zero that out. And now I know I need to rotate it negative 90 degrees. And I guess we might need a few more of these. So I'll put one in the middle, zero out the position again. And I guess that guy should be one down. So really, there's just like cleaning up and positioning things. I'm just going to add maybe 1 or 2 more of these. And all of that animation should flow through. But we're going to have to add, maybe I should have done it on the first one, but we need to put the same kind of joint chain rig on here. I'm going to copy this tag, because it's already got settings we like. But, and I think the only thing we need to do is change its bottommost child. So we have to say the end of this joint chain is this one. And copy it on this guy and tell it that the end of its joint chain is that one. And if I had done this before I started copying it, we wouldn't have had to have done it multiple times. So my bad there. 2 more. Put it here. There's the end. Put it here.
1 more.
There's the end. Cool. So hopefully those are all floppy from there. The parent has to go wherever its parent goes. So let's see what that looks like. So okay, that's working well, but because these are a lot shorter, we want these to actually visibly be like a lot floppier. So I'm going to collapse these down so we can maybe visibly see them a little better. When we start working with long joint chains, like how often do you get a hierarchy like this? Like pretty much never. But I'm going to go ahead and grab all those guys, and now we just need these to be a lot more floppy. Now you can see, now look at that really, really nice looking like overlapping animation we're getting on them. Like these guys don't care at all, or the main one doesn't care about what these children are. This isn't like a real dynamic thing, but this one is being driven via dynamics, and then wherever this guy happens to be, it's moving, and then that kind of flows down its chain. So really, like this was pretty simple setup we just put together here, and we're getting this beautiful animation out of it. Like that's flapping really nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and save this because that's working way better than I thought it would be. And what's the date?
26th, I think. 27th.
27.
Yep.
All right.
That does look cool. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the question that I know everyone's asking, and I know you're actually going to go do, which is how in the heck do I stick this to geometry and make whatever I want wiggle around like this?
I'm glad you asked that question.
Oh, thanks.
We're going to keep this as simple as possible. In fact, I think that we were looking at that really cool, beautiful abstract reference, but let's just make like this weird little kind of very geometric looking wing. Now, here's an interesting thing that happens is as I refresh the scene by moving anything. As you do anything, the dynamic joint chain will actually settle, which is really weird. And to reset it, I have to like hit forward and back, and we hit 0, it always resets back to its original pose. It's going to make it a little bit of a pain to move this correctly, and there's probably a checkbox I could hit that would stop that. But let's just go ahead and take this plane, and I'm going to position it so it's kind of filling out this general shape. And this does not need to be precise. There are certain things that would make it a little bit better or worse. But, we could shape this. We could really model it. We could have materials. It could, it could be as fancy as this reference, like all these really nice bits of geometry. It could be a cylinder. It could be whatever we want. But we're going to keep it real simple. We'll have it be flat like this. And I want to make sure our subdivisions are pretty good. So before we do anything with this, let's make sure that we get a good amount of subdivisions. Now, if we wanted to be really nice and clean, it would be good to have an exact kind of number of subdivisions here, so we're matching like joint to joint to joint, which shouldn't be terribly hard to get.
Pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I'm not going to worry about that. If you were doing it, like if you had more time to spend, do it as precisely as you can. That would just help a little bit. So cool. Now, this becomes really straightforward, hopefully. I'm going to go ahead and, first of all, resave my scene again. I'm going to make our plane editable, and I'm going to grab the very first joint. And you see that I've expanded my entire hierarchy. And if you haven't, if you hold down the command button, right now, let me just explain this. If I collapse right now, I just click it normal. When I expand, you see that they're all still normal. I did was collapse that one. But if you hold down command, when you click it, it actually filters to every single one and collapses all of them. But if you do the opposite, if I click it if I hold down command when I'm opening, it'll force all of them open all the way down. All that means is I can grab this top one, scroll down to the very bottom, grab that, and now I've grabbed every single one, is the point of that. Cool, I've grabbed every single joint, and now I'm going to grab the plane as well. So I want to make sure these are all in the original position. So I'm going to hit 1 frame forward, 1 frame back, it's reset, and now all we have to do is go character, commands, bind. Boom, click bind, and it is now, in theory, bound. What did it just do? It created a skin deformer, which is cool. It's the only time you ever use those. And it created a weight tag. And the weight is saying which joint is touching which points. And that's all that does. And the joint and the skin deformer now enables it to move. The point here being is we should be able to just hit play, and now our plane is moving wherever the joints are being told to move. We're getting some interesting flapping happening over here in the end because it doesn't quite know where to go. And what's kind of cool is if we double click on our joint tool, we can actually, on a joint by joint basis, go through and see exactly what the different joints are affecting. So that's pretty neat. What I want to do, and hopefully this works, is I want to grab every single one of these joints. Is it going to work? Can I hit Command A? Doesn't seem like it'd be at the very bottom.
We might just have to open our screen up a little bit more.
Yeah, that's really weird. Well, I hope I have all of them there. No, see. Oh, okay. Well, it's working now. I don't know why I did that. Okay, I've got every single joint selected, and I think I should be able to just go to smooth mode, and I want to smooth everything. Are we on the proper tool for that? Clamp, brush. This is the brush. Maybe if I just click here. Why am I on the wrong tool? There should be a checkbox. There's 2 different tools. I'm sorry. Don't want to get too lost here. We're on the paint tool. Okay, cool. Paint tool. So we're on the paint tool, and stop losing that. Pressure. Well, let's say apply. Huh. Well, usually you just do the, apply. I can go to smooth and say apply all, but for some reason, do I have to have the joint selected for that to count? Sorry. The advanced rigging stuff I don't do super often.
Do you have to select these like you had it before?
See, but that showed up because I clicked on this tag. So I've got that tag. I can grab all these guys. But when I go back to our paint tool, I don't think it's going to be applied there because it's not displaying them. Okay, well, there's clearly something that we could be doing better there, and it's just not popping into my head properly. Like right now, if I were to paint, yeah, you don't want to paint because right now I'm painting on all of them. Flat. I'm sorry, I'm missing a goofy detail there. But we should. There's literally a button we can click, and it would smooth all those out a lot more. So we're getting some weird little flappy, like over, where they're kind of fighting each other. But let's just ignore it because that's not the interesting part of this tutorial. We can throw that in a hypernerve, which is going to automatically smooth it out a little bit. But now we get the like neat little flappy stuff going. And then honestly, from here, there's, like it just turns into like, what do you want to build? I think you and I said we could do something like a biplane or something. So we could make a symmetry object and, throw the whole thing in a symmetry, change the orientation so it's properly over there. And now, we're going to get identical motion on the two of those. As an alternative, you could copy your rig twice and actually move on the other side. And then as we were to move this around, it would work. It would continue to work properly. Actually, here's something that's going to be super interesting. Right now, that's all moving via signal. If I grab like a new null and I throw all this stuff in there, I'm also going to hit save. If we grab this null, like this is actually extra active. Look at that.
What?
Like not only is it flapping, but as I move this, because they're dynamic joint chains, like we're getting all that extra motion for free. Like everybody avoids joints so much, and look at what we just made that quickly, and like not very optimized. Like as this moves forward and backward, like you don't want to go too far because you can start breaking. If I start going nuts, it's gonna wig them out a little bit. They'll reset, but within these tolerances, like we are getting. Actually, let's throw another signal on here and let it naturally kind of flap up and down. So we know we want the signal on the Y position. And we want to get a sine wave, and that should actually be identical animation. So it's automatically moving up and down to kind of in time with the flapping. And then we can do a little bit of a time offset because, the flap, it would react later. Is that going early? Oh, okay. I'm going to go negative. So now the wing should flap, and then it's going to kind of do the motion response afterward. So now, yeah, look at that. Whee. Actually, I might have done that backward again, but whatever.
Yeah, I like the last one.
Yeah.
A little bit more flippy floppity. What?
So, yeah. And I mean, we could double that. Like you can be going way up and down. Look at that. We get big old bad motion going.
So we can just to
yeah, take it. There you go. I'm done.
Just to have like a final thing. I'm wondering because we can make like a little animated GIF out of this. If he's centered, if this thing doesn't clip up top, thinking something like that might work. There we go. Try to center it a bit. So we can do a couple weird things. We can just add like a little shader to it, or we can just to stylize this a little bit. I thought it might be cool to add. Can I add an atom array to the whole thing?
Ooh, we turn off the hypernerve.
Just...
Turn off the hypernerve and then make the atom array.
All right,
just subdivision.
Bleh. I'll put it in the middle there anyway. So maybe we'll grab there and do an atom array.
Good old atom array.
So now we have this like floppy grid that I thought was kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. And we can just have this like white, let's just say. Have this like a bright white. And then our background would be black. And you have this nice little like grid kind of situation here. Mm-hmm. And you can also keep the atom array on and just have can we have a duplicate? In other words, how, Chris, can I skin this with like a little bit of a detail and keep the same exact animation without duplicating the dynamics?
I think that we're going to want to yank out our atom array, go outside here. We don't need the subdivision surface. And now we'll just make an instance of the whole thing. And now you can make the instance in the atom array.
Oh, perfect.
There you go. So those should be identical.
So now we should have the white with our texture. And then, thank you, Chris. That was nice. Now we can actually texture this differently and come in here with maybe just a slight color. And even add, like, maybe we keep the specular on.
Maybe put an alpha and have it fade out.
Yeah, like, see we're getting, like, all these nice little speculars. Like, we can go bling this out a little bit and take our reflectance, specular, and just kind of move this up and sharpen it up. Then we could take little speck lights, just kind of pop them around the scene. And, oh, that's so weird it does that. It, like, animates as it goes.
Yes.
Okay, so... we also don't want these lights this close. So I'm just going to move these kind of away from our object because if you get a specular light too close to something, it will like bling out a little bit too much. But now we're getting these nice speck hits, maybe too much. maybe a little bit more skinny, a little bit like more dim. Just a really subtle effect on the background on the speck, and then that's it. So it's gonna flap around, and we turn this into an animation. We could just render what? Let's say,
dude, and then you throw X particles on there, and then you turn off the wings, and you just have like these flapping particles appearing out of nowhere, or you get like a Deathwing thing where he's got flaming wings going. I don't know.
Whoa, you just blew my mind. So we could take X particles, and we're just messing around. Like basically, we're
just
done.
Playing, yeah.
But we'll see how this goes. We can go in and make an let's see here. Make a generator, new emitter. In this case, we want the emitter to be from an object.
Yeah.
And the object is down here, and it is our let's say, what do we do?
The symmetry,
I think. Okay, so now it's coming out of the symmetry, and let's just go back and check this by going forward one frame, and now we're emitting particles. It's actually moving pretty quickly.
Oh my God! Look at that.
So now we're emitting particles, and I think we can.
We need a lot of particles, but a short lifetime.
Short lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we could do that. So now we can.
Otherwise, you lose the shape. I've done tests with this kind of thing. You lose the shape of the object if the particles live too long.
If it gets too
so
hairy.
like even like 10 frames is gonna be a lot.
Cool. So we have a lot of these. The speed, we could speed up the speed, and we could also take the motion inheritance from where the particles are. So it's actually going to bling off from.
Can you do a percentage of it?
I'm just going to turn down the speed. You might be able to dampen it as well.
Yeah, speed blend.
So you can just kind of dampen that out a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of it.
So
but
now
not
we're
a ton.
getting almost like a liquid effect to that, which is pretty interesting. And you want the depth or the lifetime of it.
I think it's right up there.
Which
full
is,
lifespan right now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Boom.
I can never find that.
Lifespan,
like
5
10
frames.
Yeah.
So we just got to reset those.
Okay, definitely more than that.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh.
And now if you had like a ton of particles where they start fading out, and if they faded out over their lifetime, then you could get something super cool.
Yeah,
but
so now what you can set the variation of the lifespan as well. So you could set this to like 30. So now they're not all going to disappear at the same time. They're all going to fade out a little bit more. And then you could vary all this stuff. You could vary the speed of them. Let's say 50. So now we're getting different parts. And yeah, you said we'll crank this up. So instead of 1,000 particles, we could do 3,000 particles. And man, we could do a lot of really pretty stuff.
That's beautiful.
That's cool. So this might still be able to loop, actually, if it's close enough. We could kind of fake a loop. Might be
a little crossfade, yeah.
Yeah, especially if they fade out like that. So let's just create a new material. Nope, I'm sorry. We're going to create a new X particles material and apply this to our emitter, which is up here. And right now, if I render, it's going to be green. We get these little green, and we can actually crank up these particles even more.
Oh yeah, especially add a 0 on there as far as I'm concerned.
Especially if they're fading away that quickly, we could really get a lot of little details. And even their size is a little bit too uniform, so we can go to their radius and say we could vary this 0.5. And now they're going to be different. I think you will have to reset that, but now they're going to be different scales. That's nice. It's also green, so we can go to our display and say make these white. And now they'll once they remake themselves, they'll render as white. And very interesting, very cool. And what else can we do?
How do they fade? How can you fade them out?
So we can also...
You know X particles a little better than I do.
Yeah, so we can actually just set... There's a couple ways we could set this up. We can say what's their size, and we can say their modifier for their size can be the age. And as their age gets older, it will shrink. So let's just back this up and check that. So now the ones that are about to disappear should be almost gone.
There you go.
So now they're shrinking as they go, and you can actually push this and keep them kind of like bigger for longer and then fade out at the end like that.
I kind of liked it overall, though.
Yeah, I think a little bit heavier up front, but then it could fade out. You can also add turbulence, things like that in here, so we can go to...
Yeah, definitely.
A couple...
Dude, that one type of turbulence, I forget what it's called. as soon as you pull up. It's just beautiful because it's not. Thinking Particles has nothing like it.
Yeah, the Turbulence, there's a couple really nice ones. There's the Curl.
The curl, you just don't have anything like that.
Yeah, and you get some really nice turbulence with this. So in this case, it's a little bit too active.
Yeah, it's overriding. Oh, no, Curl is really bad about overriding. So go ahead and take it off Curl.
So regular Turbulence, you're just going to get a little bit more of this like turbulent kind of flappiness going on. We can turn up the scale, but mostly we just want to turn up the strength. And that's going to give us a little bit more of that. The scale is a little bit small because this almost feels like a large object. The way this is flapping and the speed of it is kind of large. So now we have our floppy, we got our floppiness, and we could even add like a little bit of gravity as well, just to kind of add. So now there's some gravity, so it's going to flop around. And on top of that whole thing, we can actually tell the dynamics to not intersect with this, but I kind of like if we're going to loop this, I don't think we should add that because it'd be too much randomness.
Yeah.
So this might be enough. Let's go just check the speed of this coming off. If we adjust the speed, I'm not sure if we'll get any more. Yeah, that's just going to be too much. Very, very interesting though. Radius, we got scale. So let's see what this looks like. We can also make this a color. We can override these colors just by going to color, say instead of particle color.
Yeah, color over age.
Yeah, you can say random from gradient, or you could say, same as we did, the age of this object is what drives the color. So let's say they start off white and they go to like this reddish orange kind of color.
Right.
So now over their age, they're going to change, and we're going to get a little bit more of that. That's a little bit too dark for me. So I'm just going to just fade them out more, just gray.
Sure.
So I'm going to keep this all black and white, especially if you're dealing...
I don't think you even have to replay that. The texture happens after the fact, so you don't have to rewind for it. The texture is the only thing you don't have to rewind for.
Wow. So this is looking really cool. The only thing I would add to this is that I would want this to be a little bit more random.
The surface, the way they're emitting from the surface feels very regular.
Exactly. So let's go see if there's a setting in there for that. So we brought our object in and we said bring from object, offset, emit from polygon center. So instead
polygon area.
I'm just going to say area.
Yeah.
Yep. And so now it shouldn't be as equal. It should be more like from everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere instead of those little streaks.
So already that looks better. And just to offset it from the particles, because now we have a ton of particles, which, by the way, if we're using X particles, we could just crank stuff up like crazy, and it just plays, which is amazing.
It just keeps working.
But Woo! Now that we're getting so many, what I want to do is crank our radius down a little bit. So now we're getting more particles, smaller, but we also need to just visually offset our object here and make that a little bit more bold. So we can go into our atom array and just set a higher radius, like something like 5. And now that's going to be a thicker object, like a bigger object, and then our dust is going to kind of fling off of that as well. Right now, our lights don't have any shadows, so our particles don't have any shadows. We could just set a soft shadow on that. And we got to go to our particle, and under illumination, instead of say flat, see how they're just like raw flat particles, we can say let's say Fong does it, Fuzzy does it as well. You're gonna start to get some shadow. So diffuse is the one I usually start with, and now we're gonna start to get a little bit of shadow stuff going on. Don't think that's quite accurate to where we are. Yep, too much. So we got to kind of
shadow's
balance.
Having a big effect.
We kind of have to balance those two things. So we could say self-illumination and just crank that up.
A hint of shadow.
So now we're getting a little bit of both. Oh, not enough, are we?
They're also a lot tinier. I don't know. It's a lot darker. I'm kidding.
We might have to go just back to it. Like, there's a lot of these here, but flat is obviously just going to give you straight up particles through the whole thing. And we might be onto something here. This is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, I think that would be it. Maybe a little bit more turbulence, tweak. There's a lot of stuff we could tweak. But you can also set up separate systems and have different particles come out. And for example, we could just duplicate this whole emitter and say, well, this one is identical, except for it kicks out 100 per second, and they're also like giant, right? So we can go to this radius and say 5, and we can also set like a new texture on this. This isn't an X-Particles tutorial necessarily, but
well, we've been promising them for so long.
yeah, I guess now that it's working, I'm anxious to go play with it. But now in this case, we can say these colors are a lot more like crazy. In fact, we could just take the age and go open this up, and we could load like fire, like a fire color. And now over its age, it's going to kind of go through the colors of fire.
Dude, we should turn that on the other one. Put this material on the main one.
On the main one. So yeah,
there's those tiny little guys, but put this on the big
one. So
one.
we could flip that. Oh, cool. We might have to brighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Or make them larger. So, now every time you make a little adjustment, you might have to go back in and
they're also not old enough to see the full range. They don't die until 50.
Yeah, so let's see how long we got going. Oh, very pretty.
Getting there.
Very pretty. So the age is showing the fire colors. Oh, there we go. They're also getting smaller, so we could push that vibe up a little bit.
Something I like doing, just as a thing to tinker with, go into the particle size.
Yep.
And make it significantly bigger, like pretty big, but then make them very transparent, and then they start layering on top of each other, and you start getting these really smooth transitions between them.
So you want in the main emitter to go bigger radius.
10, like something significant. But now in the material, make them very transparent.
Fun.
Like drop the transparency, like make it like 90% transparent, because there's a lot of overlap now. They probably have to be reborn.
Yeah.
That we change the scale. So now these are way bigger, and they overlap.
Oh, cool! You get a little bit more detail in there.
Yeah, even now I feel like the scale. Well, this is where you can start blending them together.
Transparency, color, size. Well, you can also cheat size here.
Oh yeah, do that.
So you can just crank this up, and then the texture will take care of the size.
Yeah.
So
See, look at that blending we're getting now.
It's a little too like blingy on the corners, but I think a little bit bigger might do it. But then you could take these white ones, and these were nowhere near big enough. Like you could say 20 for these, and get like different layers of texture. Like big ones coming out. You could do trails off of those. Like
the fire could be emitting a new particle system, which is smoke.
Yeah. So
it never stops.
Just to push this one more, we can take this emitter and go to. Let's see. Go to the systems, and we could do this separately. We can go to X particles, trail, and then this trail is with this emitter.
Oh my god!
So then we can go. This is the trail emitter, and in this case, now we have trails on those big objects, and it won't render, of course. We need to, you can use hair, or you can also just use X particles now, regular materials. So you could just say new material, new X particles material, it has to be. But if you put this on a trail, then the trails will actually render with whatever settings you have on your particle, I think it is what the trails inherit. So now we're getting trails off of this, like whatever you want to do with it.
We could have trails on the wings directly. We could.
Oh, that's a good idea. Just have them kind of trace a path. But oh wow, that's really pretty cool.
We'd be totally trapped in the abyss. That's what Joey said. We're falling into the X particles abyss.
It happens, folks. You start playing with this thing. I think we might have a cool little loop here. It's kind of cool little particle thing. And when you see the final, it might have a little bit more like white stuff in there. I was digging this kind of feel. But with bigger particles and just kind of like a little bit of more like a little stuff flinging off. That might be too big. But I do think you have to rebirth it.
Yeah.
Rebirth. Funk. Yeah. So these kind of things. Just so you know, too, trails are interesting because you could do the typical trails, which do these lines. But you can also do... where is it? It is under Object. Type.
That's just the interpretation. It's got to be up higher.
Intermediate. Is it higher? Yeah. Algorithm. No connections. This is where it can get a little hairy. So I'm just going to pause it. And you could say nearest by index, nearest by distance, and then you can see it'll connect all these objects directly. So now we're getting
constellations.
Cool little, yeah, exactly, like constellation kind of things. So now distance mode, all within a certain amount of distance. You could like manage your distance and then get different ones based on how far apart they are.
Might be a lot bigger than that.
Yeah,
that's really big. You're gonna have to crank that. That still might not be enough. Those wings are huge.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's gonna be all.
So now it'll be all of them.
So maybe around 1,000.
Okay, let's go with 1,000. You're right. We're in the abyss, aren't we? But now we have our connections here, and we can adjust the size and all that stuff, all within distance 500. Now we're getting more constellations. So there you go. So these flap around. They'll build their own constellations as they like come together and fall apart.
Ooh, I like that.
That's pretty interesting. So let's do a quick little render here of
what it might actually kind of look like.
What would be our loop point? So let's say
it's gonna have to be further in the loop point. Like definitely can't start it from the beginning. So we just gotta render a bunch.
100 to 190, right? So because it's a 90 frame loop.
Yeah, it might work. I feel like you're gonna need double that amount because in After Effects you're gonna have to get a crossfade going.
Oh yeah, because you have to fade it. So we'll do We'll do 100 to 2 to 300, just to have it. And then output, we'll do a square, maybe 800 by 800. And let's make sure that it is all within our little box here, or at least the looping stuff would kind of be centered at least.
Yeah, that seems okay. The bottom ones are falling out the screen now, but
well, I think that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just make sure the top stuff doesn't flap too crazy. Okay, so here we go. We're going to render that out.
Save it.
Thanks, Chris.
Pause it.
I'm going to pause it. I'm going to save as. And I'm going to call this...
Ooh, go over the extra O. I didn't realize I did that.
Xpart. There we go.
Joint chain. Look at it go.
Joint chain. Yeah, that's exactly how I saw it. So...
and what's crazy when you think about the stuff as raw material, like in theory, we could just turn those wings off entirely, and now those just became the geometry that generates the particles.
Right. So we can also
That's crazy looking.
Play with the dynamics of the why is that so low res? That's so interesting. So yeah. So we can do a lot here with the X particles, make it a little bit more dynamic. I would actually always forget.
It's not. It's like it's not getting into the yellows enough. I want it to be brighter.
I'll push the color
like
up a little
you
heavier.
clicked the fire color, but it didn't. Which one has the fire color?
This it's the color over age.
Oh yeah. But well, here's the thing: is we're becoming transparent in the end that we can't see the bright ones. So I feel like at this point you would go into your side. Are we shrinking or going transparent over age? Or no, even better. Yeah, even better. Pull these back.
Just gonna pull all these up. Get some better colors here.
There we go. Yeah.
So now even a little much. I'm just gonna pull these back. A little bit more fire. There you
go. There you go.
So we can play around with all this stuff. I mean, who said that?
Joey.
We could do this forever. But yeah, that's an interesting point. Is that ultimately we could use this just to emit particles, and it would look pretty interesting. The atom array itself, casting shadows, we could figure all that stuff out. But mostly, it's really, really cool. I want to add a lot more turbulence. So that's one thing that we're not getting a lot of. So I'm just going to crank it in general and see if we get a little bit more kind of detail on our turbulence.
That's interesting. The scale of turbulence has so much to do with this.
Yeah, you can turn your turbulence down. That'll be a little bit more wispy.
Yeah, the smaller it is, the more each individual particle is doing their own thing.
So now we're getting age, we're getting different colors, we're getting really pretty stuff. Now that everything's getting so tender,
like I want another 0 on the particle count where these are just gonna blend into each other and become like a visible flame.
Whatever you say, Chris. Because with X particles, I'm slap chopping the X particles right now, aren't I? The cool part is you can.
I don't think anyone will blame you for like slap chopping the X particles because we've been promising to show them off for so many months and we haven't done it.
6,000. Let's see what that does
What, 6,000? Oh, I meant for the red ones.
for the burst.
But that's the... I'm confused.
Yeah, that's the
Did
red
you change
ones.
the... Really? Because, well, there's a lot fewer now.
Really? Thought I had. Oh, it might be 60,000. There you go. 6,000, 60,000. It doesn't matter.
There we go. Look
Whoa.
at that. Like,
Whoa, it's like leaking through and all this stuff. Now, at this point with dynamics, it might get a little hairy, but that's really pretty. Let's go see our old one. And I'm going to learn how to do this sooner or later.
Got it.
I did it. So that's really cool. I think those are going to screw our loop up.
we've got a couple different ideas happening here, and they're fighting each other a little bit. Like the flame is one idea, and then the wings are one idea, and the constellations are really cool. Like I almost just want to see the constellation. Like,
Yeah.
but it's fun. There's a lot of interesting details here.
Emitter. I'm going to turn that one off for now and just get our flame and do a re-render and say, yeah, sure, let's do it. Bada bing. Is that what they say?
Yep, bada bing,
Oh,
bada boom.
very cool. All right, full frame.
Oop, we still got constellation.
Oh, yes, that is true. You can't turn that off. Well, I'm going to turn the tracer off, actually, because what that says is the particles are turned off, but the connections are not turned off. And so now what you have to do is go not turn that off, but also turn your trails off.
Sure.
And then you should get nothing. I learned it. Yay.
You got it.
Very, very fun.
Thanks again for watching, everybody. Don't forget, if you want to see these episodes and get the scene files from every episode of Ask GSG, we have those available on our training page. I'm going to link that down below and right here on YouTube. If you want to check out hundreds of hours of additional Cinema 4D training, please go check out our training page. All right, with that, I hope to see you in another tutorial here on YouTube or anywhere Greyscale Gorilla is right now, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks again for watching. Bye, everybody. Let me give you a little demo. Overexposed, okay? Underexposed, underexposed. There you go. It's a little bonus lesson. Little bonus tip there. That's the dumbest thing. That's the dumbest thing I've ever done.